Ganatimirandhasya Gyananjanasalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaye Tadale Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namah. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So welcome everyone this morning to our Ishta Goshti. So if you have any questions, you can raise your hand. Yes, Pranvala Prabhu.
How do the Mayavadis who are trying to attain the impersonal liberation, how do they attain that without, because that's near Guru, is my understanding. How do they attain that without a direct connection to the spiritual world?
Did you hear the question? His question is, how is it that those who are Mayavadis, that follow the philosophy of impersonalism, who think that this material world actually is just an illusion. It's not that we understand that the world is real, but it's temporary, and the illusion is that we identify with it. But Mayavadis, they just consider that the world doesn't exist. It's a mistake. It's a vivarta. It's a state of confusion to think that the world even exists, because there's only one truth, and it is just the light of Brahman. So Brahma Satya, Jagan Mitya. Brahma Jiva, Aika Napara. Their philosophy is only Brahman is true, the world is false, and the living entity and the light of Brahman, they are one. There is nothing else. So the question is, how do they attain Brahman? And the answer is they don't. They don't. See, Lord Brahma, in his Brahma Stuti, the prayers to Sri Krishna, he said, Tushavagatinam. The hard sadhana of the impersonalists is like the effort made to beat husk. If you have rice paddy, you can beat it, and then the rice comes out from the husk. But if you take a pile of husk and you beat it, then what do you get? Nothing at all. It is only hard labor for nothing. So all the sadhana of the impersonalists, it is for nothing. Krishna said in Gita, Moga asha, moga karmano, moga jnana vichetasa. All their, those who don't accept the personal form of God, all their endeavors to perform karma, they're ruined. They don't get any result. They don't go to heaven. Moga asha, moga karmano, whatever they desire, they cannot attain it. Moga jnana, and their attempt to get jnana, transcendental knowledge, it's all ruined. Simply by making the offense of thinking that God is impersonal. Mayavadi, Krishna aparadi. Thinking that God has no form is an offense. So, Yen ye aravindaksha vimuktamanina tvayasta bhavad avishuddha buddhayo aruya krishtena parampadam tada patanti dan adrisha anadrita yushmadangraya. Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that those persons who they are following the impersonal path, they think that they're liberated in this life. Vimuktamanina, that means they consider themselves to be liberated. But actually, avishuddha buddhi, their intelligence is not pure. Arura krischena parampadam tata. by performing severe austerities, they rise up, they're elevated to Parampadam. Here, Parampadam means the highest position you can get in this world. That is to become a high-class Brahmin. They may take birth as a high-class Brahmin. But from that stage, because Yushmad Angre, the lotus feet of Krishna, they are doing the Anadrita. Adar means adoration. But they don't adore the feet of Krishna. They don't show respect to the lotus feet of Krishna. So, patanti, they fall down into lower births. So they're never liberated. In Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna said, Brahma bhuta prasanatma na sochati na kankshati samaksaveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labate param. It's described here that if a person, they realize Brahman, then they become joyful. They feel the joy of the soul. Na sochati, they don't lament about anything anymore. Na kankshati, they don't have any desires, worldly desires, aspirations. They see everyone equally. But mad bhaktim labate param, and then after that they attain pure bhakti. So in the commentary to this verse, essentially the verse is saying that bhakti is really the post-liberation experience. Because the impersonalists think we'll practice bhakti, and by practicing bhakti, then we will gradually become purified, and then we'll get mukti, impersonal liberation. So they think that the impersonal liberation is the post-bhakti experience. That bhakti is something that you just use to get purified, and then you give up bhakti and enter into Brahman. So they have it wrong. So in Bhagavad Gita, it's very clearly said that those who have been practicing the jnana marg, the path of knowledge, but mixed with bhakti, then they can rise up to the Brahmabhuta platform, and then what happens? They give up the jnana, and then they're left with just pure bhakti. Mad bhaktim labate param. So bhakti is the post-liberation experience, not the other way around. Even, when we take initiation, then Gurudev gives us a name, and then at the end, das or dasi, means servant. And someone in this world, they might think, oh, I should be called Prabhu. Or Maharaj, or Paramahamsa, Paravajakacharya, and very long names and titles. But you should know that just this position, Das, is so elevated. Das, Anudas, Anudas, the servant of the servant of the servant. So in Chaitanya Bhagavad he said, Agrahaya Mukti Tabi Sarva Bandanash, Tabi Se Huiti Pari Sri Krishna Das. First, be liberated, a liberated person with no bodily identification, and sarva bandhanash, and all bondage of karma completely destroyed. And after that, then we become das. So the position of a das, of a servant, is actually the liberated position. So when Guru gives us the name with das at the end, this is aspirational. We're not really that Krishna Das, Madhav Das, Govinda Das. But we aspire to become liberated from bodily consciousness and engage all senses in Krishna's service without any worldly designations. Hiya yasya haridasya kamanamanasa gira niklasvapyavapstasu jivan muktasu uchate. It is said in Shastra that if there's a person in this world and you see that their body, mind and words are continuously engaged in pure bhakti, not mixed with karma, jnana, or yoga or anything, then you should know that jivan mukta sa uchate, that person is already liberated while still being visible in this world. So, Now, in the commentary to this verse of Bhagavad Gita, Mad Bhaktim Labate Param Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma Nasochati Nakankshati Samaksarveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktim Labate Param, the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So in the commentary, Srila Vishwanath Thakur describes different levels of persons who have different degrees of success. So the first person, that is the impersonalist or the jnani, he wants to get liberation, and he's trying to attain that by doing jnana sadhana and not doing bhakti. What does he get? Nothing. That's just like beating the empty rice husk. Then the next level of person is a person who thinks bhakti is powerful and glorious. Shankaracharya has said, Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda Mudamate, Nahi Nahi Rakshti Dukrin Karane. Shankaracharya said, you fools and rascals, Bhaja Govinda, worship Govinda, worship Govinda. Mudamate, Mud means you fools. You should worship Govinda. Nahi Nahi Rakshati Dukrin Karane. All your study of Sanskrit grammar and trying to analyze Vedanta Sutra according to the rules of Sanskrit grammar, it will not save you. So even the impersonalists, they have seen the poetry of Shankaracharya, so they know that bhakti is very powerful. But what do? They're following the path of Gyan, and they're using bhakti to try to get liberation. And then they think that by bhakti I'll be elevated, and when I come to the platform of liberation and realize Brahman, because as we mentioned yesterday, that the realization of Brahman is the pratamik pratyaksh. That means it's the first perception of the truth. Seeing the effulgence of God is the first perception of the truth. Srila Vishwanath Thakur gives a nice example from, there's a famous poem by the poet Magh, it's called Shishupal Bad. And there it's described that once Krishna was in Dwarka and he saw a blinding light in the sky. And Krishna looked, and all the residents of Dwarka, they were looking and thinking, what is that light? And as the light got nearer, they saw that there was the shape of a person in it. And then as it came and landed on the ground, it was Narad Muni Ki Jai. So here, the pratamik pratyaksh, that means the first perception of whoever it was just light. So that's like Brahman realization. And then as he got closer, they could see the light was coming from a form. That's like Paramatma realization. And then when he landed and they realized actually who it was, it's Narad Muni. In this analogy, that's like realizing Krishna, or realizing Bhagavan, the personal feature. So from the very beginning, it was Narad all the time. But there were different degrees of realization of him. So similarly, there is only one truth, Advaya Gyan Paratattva, that is Krishna. But the first experience is Brahman, then Paramatma, and then Krishna. So, what are we discussing? The different types of impersonalists. The first one, he doesn't do bhakti, he gets nothing. The second one, he practices bhakti along with his Gyan, and by the power of bhakti, his Gyan becomes successful, and he has a glimpse. By the power of bhakti, he has a glimpse of Brahman. It is a sattvic, in one sense, a sattvic realization. It's not that Brahman is in sattva gun, but sattva gun is clear, like a window. If there are four walls, there's no light coming from outside. But if there's a window, then the light from outside can shine in. So when a person comes to very high sattva gun, then the sattva gun is like a window, and the light of Brahman can shine through to the soul. So, that person, now he thinks, I've realized Brahman, so I don't have to do bhakti anymore. So that's the person described in the verse that we discussed. He thinks that he's pure and he's liberated, but it's only in his mind he thinks he's liberated. Avishuddha buddhi. His buddhi is not vishuddha. He's not pure. He finds no shelter. And because he's disrespected Krishna, disrespected Bhakti Devi, then though he goes up to that platform and has a glimpse of Brahman, he thinks, now I'm a success, and he stops doing bhakti, and then he falls down. Then the third type of impersonalist, he practices the Gyan Marg, and along with that, he practices bhakti. By the power of bhakti, he rises up to Brahman realization. And then, instead of giving up the bhakti, he gives up the Gyan Marg. Why? Because actually Gyan is coming from Sattva Gun. Sattvat sanjayate jnanam, Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita. Sattvat sanjayate jnanam. Here Gyan simply means dehatma vivek, the power to discriminate between the body and the soul. So this comes from Sattva Gun, that power to discriminate between matter and spirit. But there's no, the material thing is negated, but there's no positive realization of spiritual variety. So this person, he's rising up. Now, Maya has two vrittis that act on the jiva, the avidya vritti and the vidya vritti. The vidya vritti comes from Sattva Gun, and the avidya vritti comes from the Rajagun and Tamagun. So the Gyan is like a fire. So the vidya vritti of Maya is like a fire that burns the avidya vritti. You see? So just as if a fire, there's fuel in the fire and the fire is burning the fuel, but when the fuel runs out, then the fire goes out. So in the same way, his Gyan, his knowledge, he's burning his ignorance, and when the ignorance is gone, then the knowledge has no fuel to burn anymore, and it also disappears. And what he's left with is only his bhakti practice. And that's what is explained in this verse. Mad bhaktim labate param. After practicing Gyan and Bhakti mixed together, his Gyan becomes successful, and it ceases, and then he's left with the pure Bhakti. So by that pure Bhakti, he can have darshan of Paramatma. It is not actually Shuddha, it's pure in the sense that it's now not mixed with the gunas, even Sattva Gun. But it's not what we would call, in our own context of our tradition, Shuddha Bhakti. Because for us, when we say Shuddha Bhakti, we would actually mean Raganuga Bhakti. So in this context, when we say his Bhakti becomes pure, that means it becomes free from all impurities. So then he has the darshan of the Paramatma, and because he was a Jnani and he wanted liberation, then he merges into the Paramatma. He gets Ishvara Sayujya. And when his soul enters into the Paramatma, then he has the experience of Brahman. So the first category, he doesn't do bhakti, he gets nothing. The second category does bhakti, has some realization and then falls down. The next category, he comes to the bhakti, which is nirgun bhakti. He has the darshan of Paramatma, and then he enters into it, and then he's the only one who realizes Brahman. But then there's a fourth. But who is in the fourth category? The fourth category is that Jnani who's had some association with pure devotees, and by his good fortune and by the blessing of pure devotees, he's practicing Gyan and also Bhakti. His Gyan fire is extinguished because he burns all of his ignorance. And then by his Nirgun Bhakti, he sees the Paramatma, and then he thinks, oh, Paramatma is beautiful. I want to become his servant. And then he attains the spiritual form and he begins to serve, and he gradually gets realization of Bhagavan. Actually, he progresses further. So for the Jnanis, the impersonalists, there are four categories. One is a total fail. It never gets off the ground. The second one gets off the ground and then falls down again. The third one uses bhakti in order to merge with Paramatma. He's the only one who realizes Brahman. And the other one who realizes Brahman, but then he progresses from there and becomes a pure devotee and attains his swarup. So that's why in chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gita, there's a discussion of the Astanga Yogi. And at the end of the chapter, Sri Krishna says, Yo mam pasati sarvatra sarvam chamai pasati tasya ham na pranasyami sachamena pranasyati. This verse is quite famous. It means Yo mam pasasi sarvatra. Oh, that yogi who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost to him and he is never lost to me. So that's describing the fourth person in this list that we're discussing today. Because now he came to the level of Brahman realization, he has darshan of the Paramatma, and he sees that Paramatma in everyone, and sees everything in the Paramatma as well. And then he becomes a devotee. So when it says, Tasyaham na pranasyami sachamena pranasyati, I am never lost to him and he is never lost to me, that means he attains a spiritual form and directly serves the spiritual form of Bhagavan rather than merging with him. So when it says he is never lost to me and I am never lost to him, it means he doesn't go into that disaster for the soul of Ishwara Sayuja, entering into the Paramatma and then losing all awareness of variety and individuality. Yes. Is it clear now?
Just one thing on this topic. This word merge gets used often. And my understanding, we're Tatastha Shakti. How can we merge with Krishna? There's some misunderstanding of something.
Oh yeah. So the merging is temporary. We can give an example. Perhaps you know that Shishupal, he had a benediction that Krishna would not kill him until he'd made 100 consecutive aparads. So one day, it was in the Rajasuya Jagya of Yudhishthira Maharaj. And many great personalities from all over the universe came there. And at the beginning of the sacrifice, they have to select the person who will take the seat of honor and be worshipped first. The most qualified person. So Sahadev, one of the Pandavas, he said, Krishna is the most worshipable person here. Even though Narada and Vyas and Vishwamitra and Vashishta and all the sages of the universe are here. But he is worshipable. Krishna is only worshipable for everyone. Though so many devatas, demigods are here, but they all worship Krishna. So Shishupal, he couldn't tolerate that. He was envious because on his wedding day, Krishna came and kidnapped his wife. So he had a grudge. So Shishupal was furious and he began to insult Krishna. And he insulted him 1, 2, 3, 4, 97, 98, 99, Krishna called Chakra. And when he said his 100th offense, then the chakra came and cut off the head of the Shishupal. It was like a laser surgery. See, when Shishupal was insulting Krishna, then Bhimsen and the other Pandavas, they were so angry. They wanted to kill him there and then. How dare he insult Krishna and make such offenses? So but Krishna was looking at them. No, just sit down, be calm. Why? Because that's what Shishupal wanted. If a fight broke out, then some blood would be spilt, and then the Rajasuya Yagya would be over. You see? Because they had purified that area for the sacrifice. And then if blood is spilt there, the whole sacrifice is over. So Krishna had to kill Shishupal in such a way with a laser surgery, with the Sudarshan chakra, that he was killed, but there was not even one drop of blood. And the soul of Shishupal came out from his body, and everyone saw it floating through the air, and the soul of Shishupal entered into the lotus feet of Krishna. So that's an example of merging, right? Merging. There's another example when all the cowherd boys, they went singing and dancing and playing very happily over the bottom teeth of the Aghasur and then along his tongue. and into the belly of Aghasur. And Krishna was seeing all of his friends go inside and he had tears in his eyes. Oh, it's very dangerous. Don't go there. And then Yogamaya, because Krishna himself forgets that he's God, then Yogamaya inspired him. Don't worry, Krishna, you are God, you can save them. And then Krishna also, he was the last person to enter into the mouth of Aghasur. And all of his friends had become unconscious from the poisonous fumes inside. So then Krishna, he thought, okay, I can do something supernatural. Because usually when Krishna kills demons in Vrindavan, he does it just playing like an ordinary baby. How did he kill Putana? Only by sucking a breast like a child. How did he kill Trinavarta? Only holding him around the neck. If you pick up a baby, then they grab you. How did he kill the Shakatasura? He was just a baby kicking his legs. And his toe touched the cart and it turned over and was smashed. So he was killing the demons always just like an ordinary natural child. But now Yogamaya had revealed to him, you are Bhagavan. And his mother wasn't watching and all of his friends were unconscious. So he wouldn't be embarrassed. Krishna's a bit embarrassed to reveal that he's God in Vrindavan. He doesn't like to do that. But because his mother wasn't watching and all the boys were unconscious, then he could actually kill Aghasur by manifesting something supernatural. So Krishna began to grow. He expanded himself in the throat and he blocked the throat and he blocked the air, the breathing of the Aghasur. And then the prana of Aghasur, he died and his prana pushed the Atma, the soul, out of the Brahmarandra. So then afterwards, Krishna, by his glance, he awakened, brought all the boys back to consciousness. And they came out from the stomach of Aghasur. And then they saw, and all the demigods were in the sky singing and showering flowers. And they all saw the soul of Aghasura was floating in the sky. And it came and then it merged, entered into the feet of Krishna. So we say merging because it enters into the Swarup of Krishna. But you should know that everything is within Krishna. Right? Just like Madhya Yashoda looked inside the mouth of baby Krishna and saw all the universe is there. Namaste damne spuradipti damne twadyo darayata vishwashva damne. Hey Damodar, your belly is the abode of all the universes. So everything is in Krishna. So merging into Krishna, merging into the form of God, is from there you can go anywhere because everywhere is there. The Swarup of Krishna is called Aparichinna. Parichinna means limited. Something which is apart or separated from other things is Parichinna, limited. But see, Krishna is the abode of the Viruddha Dharma, all contradictory characteristics. So he's simultaneously Sarvavyapi, all-pervading, and Parichinnata. He has an apparently limited form. His mother and friends, they can all see he's this high. He's apparently limited. But he's all-pervading and limited at the same time because all possibilities are present in him. So whenever you see that a soul enters into the Swarup of God, that is, they don't stay in his Swarup directly, but because everything is within him, they enter and from there they go to whatever their destination is. So let's say Shishupal, who is he? You know, Jaya and Vijay, they were cursed to appear as the Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, and then Ravana and Kumbhakarna, and then Shishupal and Dantavakra. So after entering into the body of Krishna, then Shishupal, he went back to Vaikuntha as the Jai. So Jaya and Vijay are there in Vaikuntha. We should know that they never really fell down. When their souls came to this world, they in another form they were still there. So they were there, and in another form they came here, and then this form entered into Krishna and went back and entered into their form that was still there. Like that. So the same with Aghasur, he entered into Krishna and then he attained a four-handed form and went to Vaikuntha. And so with the impersonalists, they have this Ishvara Surya enter into the Paramatma, but from there they go to Brahman. So Brahman is not the direct Swarup of the Lord, but it's the effulgence that comes from him. And so that soul exists within. There are millions and millions of countless Atmas, all there in the light of the Brahma Jyoti. And they go there. Is it clear? Yes. Raise your hand if anyone else has a question. Yes, Anandini.
So it may not be very clear because I'm not really clear in my question. Yesterday you spoke about Vadavani feeling, and what I understood is like Vada, she's never satisfied. Like she loves so much Krishna, but is never enough. And I was thinking that about karma, like the attachment to material object, can look similarly for materialist people. So can you clarify that, please?
Yes, this is a very good question. Did everyone hear the question? So we discussed yesterday that the love of Radhika is a premamayi trishna. It is like a thirst, which is unquenchable. And so it does not matter how much she loves Krishna, how much she serves Krishna, how much she pleases Krishna in so many ways. She always feels that it was never enough. That she, even though she tastes his sweetness fully, but then his sweetness increases, and at the same time she feels that she hasn't tasted anything due to the thirst of her love. Now Anandini is raising this question, that it seems to be analogous to, though it's not so intense as that in this world, but it seems to be analogous to calm, just material lust, some material attachment. And so how can we distinguish between the two? So the first thing is, you may remember that in our class yesterday on the subject, who is Krishna, we didn't start with that, did we? We didn't start, what did we start with? Yeah, Tattva Vichar, Advaya Gyan Tattva, that Krishna is the non-dual absolute truth, the Advaya Gyan Tattva. So that's really important. You can't go to the last part of the class but forget the first part. So the first part, we discussed how Krishna is Advaya Gyan Tattva. He is the Swagat Bhed, Sajatya Bhed, Vijatya Bhed Rahit, Sachidananda Vigraha. There's no duality in him. But one of the corollary aspects of Krishna's form being beyond duality is that you cannot realize him unless you're beyond duality. You understand? So if your mind is in the dualities of this world, if you hear about Krishna and the gopis, then you're bound to think, oh, it is like my material experience. That is why those who are in the junior state, they can, by the mercy of their Guru, pure Vaishnavas, they can sometimes hear in a most honorable way and most respectful way something about Radha and Krishna. But you should not make this the main aspect of your spiritual life, because that is for the liberated souls. We can hear something about it, so we have an idea of what is our goal, and to generate some greed to attain that. Because without knowing how great is our goal, then we'll not have the determination to tolerate all the difficulties and the sacrifices which are necessary to attain that goal. So, but you should understand that yesterday we mentioned the verse. It's so profound. Atha si Krishna namadi na bhaved grayam indriye sevan mukhi jivado swayamevas pratyada. The general meaning of the verse is, because the name, the form, the qualities, and the pastimes of Krishna cannot be perceived by the material senses, therefore, only a person who sevanmukh, that means he becomes completely attentive to service, and continuously, his tongue is continuously chanting the holy name, then Seven mukhi jivado swayameva spratyada. Krishna's name, his form, qualities and pastimes, they manifest themselves. They make spurti. That means they burst into your consciousness by themselves, automatically. So, what is important here is, note this, that Krishna's name, form, qualities and pastimes cannot be perceived by the material senses. It's very deep. Have you heard Krishna's name? What's the name of that person standing on the altar there? Krishna. So you heard it, right? Or not? Have you heard the name of Krishna or not? Because Shastra is saying that the material senses cannot hear Krishna's name. What to speak of his form? And you're asking about his pastimes, and among his pastimes, his highest pastimes with Radharani. So you have to start with the name. We have to start with realizing the name. Now, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he said, Namakshara Bahirai Bhati Namakabunai. It means that Yadi Krishna Nam Karibe Sadhu Sangha Karo. Asadu Sangha Bhai Krishna Nama Nahi Namakshara Bahirai Bhati Namakabunai. The meaning is this: if you want to chant the name of Krishna, you must have sadhu sangha, association with saints. Unless we associate with saints, we'll not even have a clear conception. What is the holy name? So, Asadu Sangha Bhai Krishna Nama Nahi Hai. The name which appears, the name that we chant, if we don't associate with pure saints, that is not actually Krishna's name. Namakshara Bahirai. That means the external sound of some syllables is not the holy name. It will never be the holy name. So, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur has given an example that if you hear the name of Krishna, then you cannot think that anything exists anywhere to which you can have bhogya bhav. Bhogya bhav means the mood of enjoyment. So if your mind remembers or you hear the name of Krishna, but at the same time you feel that there is a possibility that you can enjoy something in this world, then actually you didn't hear the name. Do you understand? Because the name of Krishna is Krishna himself, and Krishna is Advaya Gyan Tattva. He's the non-dual reality. So to hear that name, you have to be in a state of non-dual consciousness. And if you're in non-dual consciousness, then you'll know that Krishna is everywhere and you're his servant and nothing exists for your enjoyment. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur says, if you think that something exists for your enjoyment, then the bahutva means plurality. Plurality has appeared to disturb Advai Gyan. Let's say you are chanting really deeply and for a moment you have a glimpse of what it means to be beyond duality. But then the next moment then you have some thoughts of worldly enjoyment. What does that mean? That means though reality is one, it is non-dual, but bahutva, plurality has entered into your consciousness to disturb the state of non-duality. And therefore, when the state of non-duality has been disturbed by the appearance of bahutva, the awareness of plurality, that is called mayadinata, being subordinate to maya, illusion. Just look at the verse also we discussed yesterday. Nama Chintamani Krishnas Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Sudho Nitya Mukto Benatva Nama Namino. The name of Krishna is Purna, it is Shuddha, it is pure. So if the pure name appears in your heart, now you are pure. Purna Shuddho, Nitya, it is eternal. Mukta, it is liberated. So if a person is not chanting purely, then they are apurna, they are incomplete. They are ashuddha, they are impure. They are anitya, they are involved in the temporary world. And they are the Maya Baddha Shrinkala, they are bound by the shackles of Maya. These four faults, you see, because there are four great qualities of the holy name mentioned here. And if we don't chant purely, then we must have the four opposite qualities. Purna, Shuddho, Nitya, Mukto. No, Apurna, Ashuddha, Anitya, and not Mukta, liberated, but Maya Baddha Shrinkala, bound by the chains of Maya. So, first, we discussed Krishna is a non-dual reality. So we have to come to that platform of non-duality, then we can realize his name. And then his form, and then his qualities, his associates, and his pastimes. And of all the pastimes with Radhika, these are the highest and topmost thing. So how will you understand that? Krishna's Kaviraj describes in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Nija Premanande Krishna Sevananda Bade Senandera Pratibhakta Hoy Mahakrodi. The meaning is that if a person has prem, love, and that prem gives them so much ecstasy, but their own ecstasy, if it gets in the way of their service, they get angry with their own ecstasy. This shows how pure love is. Because automatically when you love Krishna, you feel ecstasy. But you're not serving Krishna to get that ecstasy. You're serving him for his pleasure, not for your pleasure. So if the devotee's own ecstasy, he's trembling so much or fainting in ecstasy, or becoming stunned so he can no longer serve, then the devotee becomes angry with his own ecstasy. Oh, go away, ecstasy. I don't want any ecstasy. I just want to serve and please Krishna. Angastamaram ramutungatantam premanandam darako nabhyanandat kamsaratir vijaneyena sakshat akshodayan antarayo vyadai. It is said that one day Krishna's chariot driver in Dwarka, his name is Daruka, he was fanning Krishna. And while he was fanning Krishna, he felt so much ecstasy, he was stunned. And then after some moments, when the ecstasy went down, then he realized, oh, I stopped serving. And he criticized his own ecstasy. So the gopis are like that too. Yati sujata charanam buruham staneshu Bitashanai priyadadi mahikakasheshu Tena vimmatasitad vyatatena kimswit Korpadi bi brahmatidi bhavudaya shamna. When Sri Krishna disappeared from the Rasa Leela, he was in a hiding place and he was watching what the gopis are doing. And he saw Srimati Radhika crying, and Radhika said, "Oh Krishna, when I am alone with you, at that time I hold your lotus feet in my hands and I place them on my heart. But as I'm about to place them on my heart, I think, oh, your feet are very soft, but my heart is very hard and rough. Oh, your feet may feel some inconvenience. So now you have left us and you are wandering in the darkness of the forest, only thinking that you may step on a sharp stone. Oh, I cannot even stay alive anymore. Thinking about this, it disturbs my mind so much." So everyone, according to their astrological chart, has a lifespan. So Radharani, she knew that she hadn't come to the end of her lifespan yet. She was just at the beginning of her life. She's only 8 years old at this time. So then Radhika said, "But Krishna, if you leave me and I cannot serve you, what's the use of my life? So what is left of my lifespan? Now I'm donating this to you. May you have a long, happy life in Vrindavan, but now I'll die." And just as he was praying in this way, Krishna, he could not hide anymore. And he quickly came running out from his hiding place. His pitambara, his cloth was falling off his shoulder and he grabbed it. So pitambara darashakzvi sakshan manmata manmata. Krishna suddenly appeared there among the gopis. So, but this verse is given as the example how any heroine, if she will hold the lotus feet of her beloved on her heart, the touch will give her so much pleasure. But Radhika, she's not thinking of her happiness at all. She's only thinking of Krishna's happiness. So someone may say, but Krishna, the touch of Krishna is more cooling than millions of moons. Surely when Krishna embraces the gopis of Vrindavan, they feel happiness. And the answer is, yes, of course they do. But atayeva say suk Krishna sukha poshe e hetu gopi prema nahi kama doshe. When Krishna embraces the Braja gopis, they feel pleasure, but this pleasure that they feel in their heart, the pleasure that they feel is also to give Krishna happiness. Atayeva seisu Krishna sukha poshe. The pleasure that the gopis feel nourishes the pleasure of Krishna. And therefore there is no fault. Say hetu gopi prem nahi kama doshe. There's no fault of calm or personal gratification or selfishness in the love of gopis. This is completely pure. So there's a philosophical explanation. I've just given according to Rasatata, what's the explanation? How the love of the gopis is pure. But we always process everything according to our samskars. So in the conditioned state, we have material impressions. And when we hear something, then the words come, and then based on our material impressions, we try to remember something that resembles what's being described. Like this. So the conditioned person will think of the material memories they cannot understand. And that is why these very high topics, to constantly hear and chant them, it is for the more advanced devotees. One should chant the holy name, surrender to Krishna, and become in the state of Advaya Gyan, non-dual awareness. And then we can experience actually what the holy name is. The holy name is a Swata Siddha, self-existent, Swayam Prakash, self-revealing, self-manifesting. It is a Nikila Pramana Parichej Agochara. It is beyond all 10 classical methods of investigation. It cannot be understood by sense perception. It cannot be understood by inference. It cannot be understood even by just hearing in a general way. But it can be understood by complete surrender. Yasya deve para bhakti yatha deve tathagaro tasaiti katita yata prakashante mahatmana. Only unto those persons who, as they have transcendental devotion to Krishna, similarly they have the same transcendental devotion to their guru. Only unto those persons is the meaning of the Shastra spontaneously manifest, prakashante mahatmana, manifested in the heart. So it's a very serious subject. What we discussed yesterday, who is Krishna? It's a very profound and serious subject. So one should be careful. Don't try to go too fast. Go step by step. Beginning, from the beginning. Bhacho vegam manasa krodha vegam. Control the urge to speak. Don't speak mundane things of this world. Bhacho vegam manasa krodha vegam. Don't become angry. Don't be absorbed in the karmas of this world. That is the manas veg. The veg, the force of the mind, is the mind wants to, the mind being a material element is by its very nature is vimukh, indifferent to God. The material mind by its very nature is indifferent to God, not interested in pleasing God. So the mind always wants to force us to engage in worldly karmas, or gyan, or yoga sadhan. So don't follow the urge of the mind. Don't become angry. So these are the first instructions of Rupa Goswami. Why? Because if a person will entertain the urges of worldly thoughts and worldly speech, worldly activities, then they will remain in the platform of duality, and then they cannot experience Advai Gyan, the non-dual reality, Shri Krishna. When our consciousness is contaminated, we hear about Krishna, we think of Krishna, but this concept that we have is vikalpa, it is imagination. And it is more or less like the idea that someone will have of a historical person or a fictional superhero. But that Krishna, that is not actual the Krishna. So therefore, Eitavan neva lokismin pumsandama parasmrita bhakti yogo bhagavati tannama grahanadibi. Among the 12 Mahajans, Yamaraj, Damaraj, himself, he has said, the highest activity, the highest dharma for all living beings is Bhakti Yoga. And this Bhakti Yoga begins with the chanting of the holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So at first we're only making the Nam Akshar, the external sound. And 2 days ago, we were there in Kirikiri, and we described at the end of the class there about mantra. When you speak, then it begins with the movement of pran. And that's how you produce material sound. But what we want is that Krishna himself, in the form of the holy name, will enter into our pran and take over our mind, intelligence, and all senses, like this. So when you're chanting, you have to chant according to we discussed it on that day, according to the direction of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Trinadapi Sunichena, being more humble than a blade of grass, being more tolerant than a tree, giving respect to everyone, not demanding respect for yourself, and in a very humble and desperate mood, crying out to Sri Krishna, and then the actual name may come and manifest to us. And we'll experience that non-dual consciousness by the mercy of the holy name. The philosophy of non-duality is described in Vedanta. So when our Gauranga Mahaprabhu met his guru in Gaya, he said, "Oh Gurudev, please teach me Vedanta." And Srila Ishwara Prabhupada said to him, "You're a fool. You cannot understand Vedanta. Just understand this. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kevalam, kalo nashteva 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 gatiranyata." In this age of Kali, there is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way. Only the chanting of the Harinam, Harinam, Harinam. 3 times it's said for emphasis, just in case we don't get the point. Harinam. But what about no? Harinam. But Harinam. No buts. So make the time every day to chant japa. Prabhu kohi lama eya mahamantra hiya japit giya sabe koriya nirbandha. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave instructions to his associates. You should chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra 64 rounds every day. This is Mahaprabhu's instruction. 64 rounds every day. So seriously, if you want to come to the platform of Advaya Gyan, then you have to do it. Otherwise, if you only chant a little bit and with the distractions, then you'll stay in the plane of duality. Bahutva. Bahutva will come and disturb non-dual consciousness, and that is tantamount to mayadinata, being under the subordination of illusion. These are the words of Prabhupada Bhakti Saraswati Thakur. Try to learn his vocabulary, the way he expresses everything so perfectly. Okay, so are there any other questions? Do you have a question before you go?
Hare Krishna is, he's the sound, and he's also a duality from the mind, the front, and the back. And he's not a person you could meet. He's somebody, vibration, light, quality. And he's a frequency, isn't he?
Well, no, Krishna's actually a person. Krishna's a person and you can meet him. But just by chanting in a casual way, it's not possible. That one has to take shelter of a guru and serve with great humility and dedication, and then one can experience the divine mantra, and he will realize that yes, God is a light which is everywhere, but that's only the effulgence that comes from his personal form. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Yes. Anyone else have a question? Yes. What's your name? Maria. Yes, Maria.
The other day in Gary in our session, we were speaking about meditation and enlightenment, and you were mentioning how in our hearts we have a soul and Krishna's soul too. So I'm wondering, for someone that is beginning their journey and learning about everything, what would be the overview of the different worlds or dimensions and as souls, where we come from and what's our journey or our mission?
So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught Srila Sanatana Goswami, Krishna Buli se jeev anadir bahimukh ateva maya taridya sangsara dukh. The living entities in this world have forgotten Krishna. When did they forget him? On Wednesday afternoon at 4:30? No. Anadir bahimukh. In time with no beginning. It's not something that the material mind can grasp. If we try to search out the origin or the first point of our conditioned state, we cannot find it. It is beyond our capacity. So it is called anadi, beginningless. From beginningless time, we have been in a state of forgetfulness of Krishna. And due to this offense of aversion to see Krishna, we are undergoing the miseries of material existence. So during this journey, we have taken birth in all the different species of life. It is said that there are, according to the taxonomy of the Vedas, there are 8,400,000 species of life. So that includes all the aquatics and the plants and the mammals and insects and human beings and demigods. So there's so many forms of life. And our soul, just like if you're on a Ferris wheel and you go up to the top and back down to the bottom. So our soul has been traveling through all the various forms, from the bottom of the universe, the lowest forms, to the highest forms, among demigods even. And back down and around again and again. Like this, we are wandering. So, what is our trajectory? Brahmanda Brahmate Kon Bhagavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasadi Pai Bhakti Lata Beach. After wandering for many, many lifetimes in this world, when a person meets with a sadhu, with a saint, then that saint, only seeing him, only hearing him, what to speak of serving him, it generates the kalyan, it generates good fortune. It generates bhagya, great fortune. And this fortune causes us to again become receptive to meet with saints again and again. And when this fortune accumulates and becomes mature, then among those saints we meet with our guru. So Brahmanda Brahmate means after wandering through the universe, Kon Bhagyavan Jeev. Kon means some, not everyone. So out of all the different living entities, some of them, that means at any particular point in history, some of them, they will meet a guru. And who are they? Bhagyavan Jeev, those who have accumulated sufficient sukriti to recognize guru and surrender. Because many persons meet a guru and they just see and then they go away. Or others even come and they take initiation, but they don't surrender. So they're still in the stage of collecting the sukriti. So those persons who actually recognize the Sadguru and they surrender, they have sukriti, they have good fortune. Then they receive Bhakti Lata Bij, the seed of devotion, And that is Krishna Seva Bhasana, a Vishesh Sanskar, an intense impression in the heart. I want to serve Krishna. This is the goal of my life. And then they receive initiation and they take up the process of the hearing, chanting and remembering every day under the guidance of Guru. Slowly, slowly, anarthas, the unwanted desires and ignorance is gradually removed and they attain nishta, steadiness in bhakti. And in the stage of nishta, you can, when you chant, see the form of Krishna. And you can realize something of the opulence of Krishna. And then nishta turns into ruchi. In the stage of ruchi, you can realize the sweet qualities of Krishna. And also, you see that in the effulgence of Krishna, there are so many personalities, his associates. And then in the next stage, in the stage of asakti, you realize the form of Krishna, the qualities of Krishna, the associates of Krishna, and some pastimes also. And you see that among those associates, you also have a form. And then from the stage of asakti to bhav, the sadhana that you do is to establish your abhiman. That means your sense of identity to be fully established in that spiritual form that you can see in Krishna's Leela. And then bhav comes, and now you are very perfectly situated in your spiritual form. And now your bodily identification is just like, perhaps you have a dream, and in a dream you have a particular form or whatever, or skill. And then when you wake up, you no longer have that form or talent that you had in the dream. But you can vaguely remember that body and what it was like. So when you come into the stage of bhav, you become so strongly situated in your spiritual form that this body here is like some just a remnant of it is still present, like a dream that you've woken up from. So this is the trajectory of life. First, associate with sadhus, honor them, listen to them, try to serve them, accumulate sukruti. After some time, it will lead us to the shelter of Guru. And then gradually all the stages of bhakti. Is there any other detail you want to know about?
Can you explain a little bit what Leela will be?
Leela? Yes. We can get some idea of Leela by comparing with karma. Because karma is an action and Leela is also an action. But they're quite different from each other. And actually, Krishna himself sometimes uses the word karma to refer to his own Leela. Because it's his action. For example, in Bhagavad Gita, he said, Janma karma chame dibyam evam yo veti tattvataha chaktva deham punad janma neti mameti sorjuna. Do you know this verse? Janma karma chame? No? You must learn it. Learn it today. So, Krishna said, one who understands the transcendental nature of my birth and activities, my janma, birth and karma activities. So here, actually Krishna doesn't do karma. That means he doesn't do material activities which cause reactions which make one become bound. So here the word karma actually means Leela, because it's Krishna's karma. It's just play. So the difference between karma and Leela is this, that karma takes place within the realm of time and space. It is a deshakal parichinata. That means it is circumscribed by time and space. A karma is in one place and you do it and it's over in a moment. That is karma. But Leela is deshakal aparichinata. It is not limited in any way by time or space. Someone may say, 5,000 years ago, Krishna lifted Govardhan Hill. So we missed it. We're 5,000 years too late. No. Leela is not limited by time and space. And so if a person will chant the holy name and say, oh, Giridhari. Oh, Giridhari Krishna. then the name of Giridhari will manifest, that the Leela is going on right now. Because every moment of Krishna's pastimes is an eternity. That's the meaning of non-duality we said yesterday. Advai means there's no duality of past, present and future. There's still a kind of sequence of events, but it's not limited by time in any way. So that's the first thing, that karma is a desha-kala parichinnata and Leela is desha-kala aparichinnata. Not limited by time and space at all. So the next thing is that the karma is a state of bandhan, bondage. Because the karma that a living entity experiences in this world is forced upon them. You didn't choose to be born here. You didn't choose the kind of body that you have. You didn't go open a catalog and look at all the different bodies and think, I like this one, I think. You kind of chose it in the sense that it's the reaction for things that you've done in a previous life. But you didn't actually select it. But you kind of chose it in that sense. Just as, a criminal who's in jail doesn't choose to be sentenced to 20 years in jail. The judge decided that. But he kind of did choose it because he did an offense that has the penalty of 20 years in jail. Like that. You see? So karma, any activity we do in this world, is a state of bond. It comes from a state of bondage, and when we do it, it creates more bondage. Karma is full of suffering. In karma, we experience the threefold miseries. Whereas Leela is anandamoy, it is just full of joy. And Leela is completely free. And Leela doesn't make any reactions. So Leela and karma are completely different. Now, one may say, if God is Atmaram, he's self-satisfied, why does he even bother to get out of bed? Why does he even have a bed? Why does he do anything? If God is Atmaram, he's complete and he's self-satisfied, why would God do his transcendental karma, or as we call it, Leela, pastimes? Kaun kahte hai Bhagavan, sote nahi. Kaun kahte hai Bhagavan, sote nahi. Maya shod ke jaisi sulate nahi. You understand Hindi? Yeah. What did I say? Yeah. Yeah. Maya shod ke jaisi sulate nahi. Okay, the first line you got it right. It means some people say that God doesn't sleep. Some people say that God doesn't sleep. But you know why they say that? Because they don't put him in bed like Mother Yashoda does. If they had love and they tucked him in bed like Mother Yashoda does, then God would sleep. He might not sleep for that person because he doesn't have love. But when Mother Yashoda tucks him in bed and tells him a bedtime story, then Krishna falls asleep because he loves him. So this is Leela. God has a Leela of sleeping. God has a Leela of waking up. He has all of these Leelas. Why? In Padma Purana it is said, Mad bhaktanam vinodatam karomi vivida kriya. Krishna said, I perform many different activities. Why? To give happiness to my devotees. So because Krishna is Raso Vaisa, he is the embodiment of all the flavors of love. He lives and he plays, he does Leela. His Leela is one of just giving joy to all of his devotees. That's the meaning of Leela. Raise your hand if anyone. Maybe this will be the last question because there will be another class. Yes?
Are there other means of arriving at the non-dual platform other than the prescribed?
So, you missed the beginning of the class, right? You came late. So we discussed that in great detail, that there are, let us say, all types of paths. We can understand them in terms of 4 broad categories. The first category is karma yoga. That means when a person is in this world and they're doing their duties and responsibilities in this world, but they perform those activities without attachment to the result of their work. And in the midst of all the various disturbances, they make a great effort to remain in equilibrium. Samatvam yoga uchate. So the state of mental equilibrium is synonymous with the word yoga. So there's a way that you can be a transcendentalist and you can practice yoga just by doing your everyday work, if you have the right attitude. And that will lead one to sattva gun, the mode of goodness. And you'll get some insight into non-duality, but not actual positive non-duality. In other words, you'll be relieved from the disturbance of the dualities of this world, but you'll not experience any divine variety. That will come only by bhakti. There's a reason for this, because the path of jnana, of developing knowledge, whether it comes from karma or whether it comes from philosophical inquiry and austerity and detachment, that is the path of jnana yoga, or whether it comes from the Astanga yoga, these processes are not taking shelter of the ananda, the joyful energy of God. They are only essentially a negation of the material energy. And so they don't afford one an experience of divine variety. God's spiritual form is Satchidananda Vigraha. It is the embodiment of Sat, existence, Chit, consciousness, and Ananda, joy. So if a person is doing the karma yoga, he's basically in the mode of passion and he's rising up to Sattva Gun, mode of goodness. Then from the mode of goodness, he can get jnana, and he'll have to practice some bhakti yoga along with his jnana. And then he can realize, he may realize Brahman, just the light, impersonal light. So that's just the very preliminary or rudimentary first introduction to the realm of non-duality. So it's not... from the material point of view, it's a great achievement. From the point of view of transcendentalists, it's the most rudimentary achievement possible. And if one practices the Astanga yoga along with bhakti, then he can realize not only chit, knowledge, or the light of knowledge, but sat and chit, knowledge with form, and that is the Paramatma. But only by taking full shelter of pure bhakti, because bhakti itself is of the nature of Ananda. Then you can realize the form of God, which is Satchidananda, Krishna, the complete, that is a complete realization of the non-dual truth. So there's only one religion. There are not many religions. There's one religion, devotion to God. But persons may express that devotion in different ways. And in addition to that, we should know that God has many forms, but not every form is showing his complete potency, his complete glory. So the form of Sri Krishna is God with his complete glory, with his complete Shakti, his complete potency, who is personified in the form of Radha. So, on the one hand, there are many paths that can take you so far in the right direction. But to go to the only path that takes you to the end, to the highest, the topmost result is Krishna Bhakti, devotion to Sri Krishna. And that is not our sectarian opinion, but this is proven and shown philosophically in the philosophy of the Vedas, in the darshan, Vedanta darshan, the supreme philosophy of the Vedas. So don't think that we say, oh, this is the only way. We're not saying this is the only way. There are so many ways, but they only go so far. But if you want to go the full way, then it will culminate in Shuddha Bhakti, pure Bhakti. Okay, last question. Who has a question? Yes? Just to clear that point, there are some religious ideas that say this is the only path, but they can't explain why. But in the path of pure Bhakti, there is an entire metaphysical structure by which, if you understand that cosmology and that metaphysical structure, then you can calculate yourself. Yes, actually, if you do all these other things, it will not get you to the point of prem, to the highest love. So an impartial person can accept this and not superimpose artificially the idea that it's some kind of sectarianism or dogma. Yeah. Yes, Prabhu, what's your question?
So you probably already answered this, but I probably missed it. But just talking about the jiva being in the marginal potency, being conditioned from time immemorial, some jivas choosing the spiritual world, and some jivas glancing at Krishna's material energy and wanting to enjoy that. I guess it's been rattling around in my brain for a long time, wondering if it was time immemorial. There seems like there was a time where there was the choice, and
yes, that time is now. You see, from the perspective of Advaita and non-duality, there is only now. So that time when you're making the choice is the eternal now. You're eternally making the choice, and you can eternally change your mind. It's not really the mind. It has to be the soul has to assert its will. But what happens is when we're covered by ego, then the will of the soul has been essentially hijacked by the ego. And so the living entities are wondering, and they don't get the opportunity for their will to be asserted. So then what happens is, when we have the association of Vaishnavas, and they engage us in Krishna's service, as soon as we begin to chant and serve under their guidance, and especially serve the deity, then the grip of the ego of Maya becomes loosened. And once the grip of Maya has become loosened, now you can really feel, oh, I have a choice. And you can make a sankalpa, a vow, I will serve Krishna. Because at first, when we come to Bhakti, we come with actually so many mixed motives. But once by good association and practicing Bhakti, then the grip of Maya becomes loose. Then we realized, oh, I really can make a choice to remain, to try to go back to sleep, or to become completely alert, completely aware, and serve Krishna. So don't try to, I mentioned earlier, when did you forget Krishna? At 4:30 on Wednesday afternoon. It was a bit of a humorous statement, but I was trying to show in a kind of poetic way that you cannot pin it down to some calendar date. Because the reality of the soul and Krishna is the part of the soul is part of Krishna, the non-dual reality. It is beyond time. So as soon as we try to apply our mental structures, which are conditioned by time, past, present, and future, and apply them to the non-dual duality, then, that's the square peg. It doesn't go in the round hole. So try to resist that. The same kind of question that you're asking is also asked in Jaiva Dharma by a personality named Brajanath. Now, this fellow Brajanath, before he became a devotee, he was a logician. Nyayika. He was a logician. He was studying the school of logic. And so that was his background. So when he came to Bhakti, he was trying to logically understand this point. Like, when? And he's asking from so many different angles. And his guru told him, he gave examples. It's just like a fish in a river can swim to this bank or swim to that bank. He gave examples. But ultimately, his guru told him that what I'm explaining to you is Shakachandra Nyaya. Shakachandra Nyaya means utilizing the logic of the moon and the branch. Let's say there's a child, and the child says, "Oh, mother, mother, where is the moon?" So the mother says, "You see that hill over there?" "Yes." "See on the top of the hill there's a tree? You see that branch? Oh, the moon is there." And so the child looks towards that branch and sees the moon is on the branch. Actually, the moon isn't on the branch. The moon is thousands of miles away. But the branch becomes a reference point to look in the right direction. You see? So whatever has been described about the living entity can look this way and that way, and we made a fence and came to this world, all of these worlds are not describing the actual subject. Just as the mother didn't describe the location of the moon, but the mother gave a reference point so that the child will look in the right direction and then find the moon. So these types of descriptions, they're not actually describing the reality, but they're just making us look in the right direction, and we should chant Harinam, and then gradually we can see what is beyond. What is beyond that explanation also. So after inquiring and trying to go into this deeper and more deeply, then Gopal Guru Goswami, Raghunath Das Babaji, he said to Brajanath, he said, "Stop. Because what you're trying to do is that which is inconceivable, you're trying to catch it with the limited mind. So what will happen is when you try to catch that which is unlimited and inconceivable with the limited material mind, then you'll see that you caught nothing. But then you'll think that that nothing is the truth. And then you become like a Mayavadi, like a Buddhist, impersonalist. You see? This is the thing. All those who try to understand the truth by grasping with their limited mental and intellectual faculties, they catch nothing and then think that that nothing is the truth. And that's why there's an abundance of impersonalists and Buddhists and people who think that God has no form and character because they made this mistake. So his guru, Brajanath's guru, warned him, don't follow that path, you'll end up with nothing. You should do Chid Anushilanam. So Chid Anushilanam means a transcendental cultivation. You have to yourself chant mantra. So mantra, man means mind, and tra means trayate. It delivers you. The mantra is that delivers your consciousness from the limitation of material thoughts. So once your consciousness is free from that limitation, you can directly experience the non-dual reality. What's the use of trying to force by the material intellect and understanding of that which the intellect cannot touch? It's impossible. We should make an effort to go beyond the limitations of the mind by taking shelter of the holy name, and then have the anubhav, direct experience, direct spiritual experience. The types of analogies which are given in this regard, they serve the purpose, they are helpful in the sense that just as in any other type of analogy, an analogy always has some things which are similar with the object they're actually trying to describe, but an analogy also has other aspects which are not similar to the object. So these analogies, there's a part which is to be discarded, but there's a part, an essence of it, which has something valuable for us. So the essence of these analogies regarding Jiva Tattva and where the Jiva has come from and so on, the useful part is that you understand that you are not God. That's the useful part. Because the danger is that the person thinks, oh, non-duality has no variety. There is not advai, not two. There are not two things. So because there are not two things, then my soul and the absolute truth, they are one. They're absolutely one in all respects. And so these analogies which are given in the scripture, are their essential utility is they don't allow us to think that we are God. And that's the important thing. Because as soon as you think, I am God, now it's not particularly humble, is it? It's not very humble to think that you are the supreme absolute truth and there's no reality higher than you. That's the exact opposite of Trinada Pisuni Chena. That's the exact opposite of becoming more humble than a blade of grass. And so those analogies, don't think that because they're not exactly true that they're useless. No, they have a utility. And they guard us against slipping into a Kevala Dvaita, a type of extreme monism. Okay? Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo.